When we get to the questions, anything's on the table. You can ask anything. So it doesn't have to be necessarily just about, what you do here in Korea. It can be about big Navy, be about Department of War. It can be about shutdown, where we stand with that. It can be about anything. So it's just opened up. I'll try to answer it if I can't. MCPON will. If we can't, we'll take the question. Well, first, as you might expect, it is my first stop here. First trip. I've done a few things on the East Coast. They don't count. And so I decided to come to Indo-Pacific Command's AOR first because, of course, just the incredible precedent that sets for where the strategy of the Department of War is heading. And so we focus really very heavily toward looking at China as our pacing threat. It's important for us to all have a deep understanding of this area of operation. So I want to go around, started with Korea first. I'm here for a couple reasons I'll talk about in a minute, in addition to just the nature of the war fighting that might happen in this neck of the woods. But it is important that I get an understanding of, what you're going through over here, whether or not the things I'm trying to put in place are working or not, or some of the frictions of your life, that are troubling you. And that means not just you individually, but as families as well. So please, all those kind of questions are on the table as well. Then I'm heading to Japan, spend some time there, and then Guam, then back to Hawaii before I head back. So it was important to come to Korea first. One of the reasons I did that is shipbuilding has been a problem in the United States, okay? We are significantly behind. We're behind not only in building new construction ships, and that's submarines, surface ships, auxiliary ships, commercial ships, even private shipping for, just general purpose use in our country. It's been obviously a significant priority verbally from the president. They want to ramp up shipbuilding. But shipbuilding, getting that up on step is not easy. And you can imagine what makes that hard. What's challenging about that? Now, we got a lot of land, we got metal, we got places. So what's hard about building ships? It's the same thing that's hard about anything, it's people. Yeah, it's the workforce. I get asked a lot of times like, hey, why don't I just sign up another shipyard? Well, I got places I could do that, but I just don't have the craftsmen and the masters and the pipe fitters and the electricians and the welders and the project management and the engineers and the people who work technical work documents. There's no capacity for that. I barely have the capacity for the actual yards that I currently have. So one of the visions there, and the reason this is so important, and one of the things I want to do while I'm in Korea, a couple of their main yards, is understand how they do business and actually get some of their capacity in our country, because they do have more capacity, more labor force. So as they come in, and like in the Philadelphia yard, like Conway has purchased, that's a great type of venture that we want to do. We want to get more shipbuilding in our country, of course, but leverage the fact that we don't necessarily have all the labor for that. And so one of the things I'm going to be kind of bore-sighted on why I'm here is really get a sense of how they're pulling that off. Now, robotics is part of that. Automation is part of that. Long lead time material and supply chains is part of that. But just this palpable workforce that gets after it every day, that's completely offended if you're one day off critical path, is the type of culture we're really trying to get turned around in our own country. And so I want to see some of that here in Korea and see how they're doing that. So that's a big part of it. But you're at the tip of the spear here. You really are. We say that a lot, but the reason we say it is because this is an area in which, when you're forward deployed, and an area where conflict can kick off with a country right above you that's nuclear armed and doesn't necessarily like the country you're in, as a person that, the rationality of that leader could be always called into question to some extent. You never know what's going to get kicked off there. The relationship that Korea has with the United States to actually support other operations that are going on, like Chinese encroachment, perhaps, is a place where you're, a main factor of what's going on. These new coalitions that we're trying to stand up, and the Admiral and I were talking a little bit about this new Task Force 170 construct and what that might look like. If people have served in Bahrain, know the 150 and 151 construct, and how countries can plug into a C2 structure, provide some naval capabilities, and under a common mission and common vision can be a very effective construct to actually deter or show presence, show a force, those types of things. So there's a lot going on here that you're part of every day as part of our Navy. My goal as the CNO, and hopefully you've been able to read some of this, and it's my earnest belief, is that I want you to know that I am a sailors first CNO. Sailors first, okay? The first thing I put out was about sailors. I work every day to try to do something that improves your life in a qualitative way. I try to improve the quality of where you live, how you eat, how we train you, okay? I try to improve the quality of your work by the tools and capabilities and kit we give you to do that, okay? These things move at certain paces. Sometimes I get things done pretty fast. Some things come at the breakneck speed of the Pentagon. But make no mistake about it, you have my full commitment to actually work every day to make your life as frictionless as possible. That means your family's life as well. Access to health care is not easy. You can tell me about how it's going over here with that. It can be challenging. Getting sailors off ships. I started in the job, we had about 7,000 sailors that lived on board ships still. And now I've about cut that in half. And most of the ones in the United States, I've got the capacity to kind of get that done. It is the forward deployed naval forces, like in the George Washington Strike Group, for instance, in Japan. That takes a little bit longer. Ships in Rota a little bit longer because I just don't have the capacity. The system was never designed for sailors to fully live off ships, but we're getting there. We're redesigning how galleys are done with food. Not only the nutritional options so that I make sure you're healthy and fit to fight, but the way we serve, the method by which you go to a place to eat, we're trying to redesign that to give that a little bit more modern look. You should expect high-speed Wi-Fi in your barracks if you live in unaccompanied housing. No one would ever think to go into a barracks and not see a Wi-Fi signal in the 21st century. It's just not a thing. And so if you're not getting that, that's something I'm interested in knowing about and why it hasn't been put into your barracks yet. It's important. It's, again, a little tougher sometimes. We've got agreements overseas that can limit that, but that's my expectation, okay? Your distance to work. Where do you park when you get to work? When you get here, how do you eat? Where are your kids going to school? Where do you have daycare options? All that matters to me. So it is a sailor first thing, and that's including your pipeline of what it took when you left boot camp, A school, C school, schools you're going for certain NECs, all of that I'm looking at to make sure that you are getting the right training you need to be the actual master of your skills that you can be. So all of that's part of this idea of the Foundry, the fleet, and the fight. How many people have heard those three things? Foundry, fleet, fight. How many think you're part of the Foundry? You should all raise your hand. How many people think you're part of the fleet? You should all raise your hand. How many people think you're part of the fight? You should all raise your hand. So you look at that construct, people is the center of each one of those Venn diagrams. People are humans. So Foundry, think like, Foundry, what is the Foundry? Well, you're on shore. How many shore are you on shore duty here? Okay, well, that's the Foundry, okay? That is the platform by which we operate to actually launch naval combat power from, right? That's what the Foundry is. That's where the fleet is forged, okay? And that can be forged forward. It can be in the United States here, anywhere overseas. That's the actual infrastructure, okay? The combination of materiel, infrastructure, installations, human beings working collectively to actually support naval forces, okay? And so that's the construct, that's the term. I use Foundry because I think it sounds cool, okay? It's no more complicated than that. The fleet is our main instrument, our decisive instrument of power in the Navy. We have a fleet design. So when you think of how the Navy deploys combat power, it is in and through our fleets, okay? And that's in different echelons. Of course, at the top of the food chain for you guys is Echelon 2, Commander Pacific Fleet, okay? That's at the top, so that's the fleet. That moves down into numbered fleets, okay? And it may move over into components, like Admiral Calvi here is a component commander, okay? And send all the way down to the tactical units. So we are structured in fleets. That's purposeful. Doctrinally, that's how we fight. We fight from our maritime operations centers, and the way we give mission command orders are to fleet commanders. So that's why that structures how we have decided to build our fighting forces. And then the last one is actually how we do carry out fights. And that's where every day we practice, we rehearse, we work with partners, we understand doctrine, we understand TTPs, we go get lessons learned, we exercise, we critique, we do hot washes, we integrate that back in, we do constructive kills, we actually learn how to employ our weapon systems, we learn how to get on our ship, understand displays, see the enemy, engage the enemy. We understand how to communicate with our partners and allies. We understand how to engage and communicate within our own forces itself. We understand how to distribute those operations. We understand how to mass fires with timing and tempo to create the lethal effects that we want. All of that is the structure by how the United States brings to bear our combat power. Do we have more or less ships than China? Less. Do you think the number is converging or diverging? Diverging. So we are in a position that we have never been in before in the United States. Everywhere since until modern times, meaning now, we have always been able to win with a simple premise of overmatch. We come in and we are just larger, bigger, okay? We have the advantage to dominate because we know how to set a theater with overwhelming force and continue to suppress the enemy until we win and they acquiesce. Well, that's not the fight we're in anymore. So now we have to get, somebody has to say when you don't have enough capability, you actually got to put your thinking cap on. And so the way we fight today is through timing and synchronization and asymmetry. That's how you fight today. It's different. There's an old saying that timing beats speed and precision beats power every time. Okay? And so it is how you bring a smaller force to bear at the right timing with the right mass of effects and pulse that operation over and over again while understanding that we can be targeted too and to actually do that. So it's stick and move, essentially. It's a stick and move theory. So that takes practice. Because used to we could be flabby. I park a bunch of ships off somebody's coast. I run a deliberate ATO. I fly with impunity over the skies of somebody's country and drop a bunch of precision-guided bombs, and finally the Marines or somebody kind of march in and kind of clean up all nine, okay? That's not how you fight big peer competitors like China and Russia. It doesn't work that way, okay? So we have to practice that. That's not in our DNA. And a lot of people who have been, in supporting post-9/11 events like Special Forces and Marines and Army, they're now trying to get up on the step of how you fight a big peer that's predominantly launched from an archipelago or an island set as well. So a lot going on, okay? So I'm just giving you a little bit of, world view here of where you fit in. And so all this stuff that we do and we practice, when we look to see how it's going, you're the ultimate experiment here to see how all that training and capability and how we actually do business is working. So that's why strong feedback up through your chains of command is so important for us to hear how things are going. And there's no issue too small to bring up. So I'll pause there and I'll let MCPON say a few words and then we'll take some Q&A. Clean up anything I didn't get after there, MCPON.
Yeah, so good afternoon, everybody. So as you're thinking about your questions, do focus, the CNO is laser focused on sailors first, right? He did talk about we need a bunch of ships. Even though we have less than China, our shit is significantly better than theirs. My general belief is that. But the real advantage we have over any other competitor is you, right? And if you've been paying attention to the Russia-Ukraine war, Russia should have went in there and kind of rolled right over them. But they didn't. And why didn't? Right? Well, they didn't because in 2014, when Russia rolled into Crimea, we started training them, and they adapted a bunch of our approaches to how we fight. Namely, how well trained our enlisted force is. Right? It's a game changer for the Ukrainians versus the Russians. So we are 100% committed to making sure everybody in this room has exactly what they need to succeed. Right? The boss and I joke all the time. There's 535 people on the Hill that will go out of their way to buy me a bunch of shit. Right? Because the stuff gets all built in their districts and they're very invested in it. There are very few people who will go to the Hill and get me all the stuff I need for you, right? And so we are committed to doing that. So as you think through your questions, ask us tough questions. We're here for them, all right? And then, thank you for your decision to serve your country and for continuing to serve, all right? Being this far from home is pretty cool, maybe. I always thought it was pretty cool to be overseas. And hopefully you're enjoying your time here in Korea. All right, so we'll get your questions.
Just say it loud so everybody can hear it.
Somebody has to be the first one. Okay.
Good afternoon, sir. I'm Kiki Sears from Naval, Korea. As you mentioned earlier, robotics is one of the things that you were interested in for building new ships. I was wondering if there's any plans to open up some of the locked-in rates so that they have opportunities to transfer into rates like robotics.
Oh, wow. Perfectly timed question. You want to answer that?
Yeah, I'll answer that one. Cool. Hey, thanks for the question.
He steals all my good questions.
I know. The short answer is no, because where the CNO and I want to go is everybody in the Navy is a robotics, right? I think it was ill-advised to create a very small rating like that when this technology is going to be ubiquitous. So anybody in any domain with any kind of technical training should be able to operate a robotic and autonomous system. Anybody have kids? All right. Anybody's 5-year-old flying a quadcopter around? Okay, it's not that difficult, right? And so, and the boss and I joke, we don't create like SM6 men or Tomahawk men, right? They're just part of
or iPhone men.
Or iPhone men, all right? And so these technologies like this, actually, I think we limit ourselves if we create a rating. And what I want is every person in the Navy to be able to operate these things. So I think what you'll find, well, the answer to your specific question was, am I going to let you cross right out of IT into robotics? No. But what you will have is everybody will have a greater opportunity to operate robotics and autonomous systems as we go into the future. Because they are, and the CNO will come out with this, and then I'll see if I forgot anything. They are a big part of our head strategy. Given that we're not appreciably going to change the size of our fleet in the next, 15 years. RAS is the thing, and I need everybody to understand how to use them. And the ones we buy, we need to make sure that the industrial base gives me one that's as easy to operate as your iPhone. So, I think you'll see more people operating less important if you're a robotics man. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think the question is timely. It's a good one, too. I want to back up just a level. And one of the things that I've learned with 4 daughters, who none of them serve in the military, a couple of their husbands do, but one of the things that we have that most companies don't have very good is career path. And it is the Navy's career path, I would even argue across all the Joint Force, is a real special sauce that we have. We map out that career path, and we've done this extraordinarily well, and probably more so than you can even imagine, across all, 84 rates? Through, what used to be called Ready Relevant Learning. I've changed the name of that to Career Training Continuum now. You'll see that name change is what it's called. We have mapped you out exactly where you're going to go all the way through across the training required for you to be competent, your character, and your leadership through your entire career. And I have to have a career path mapped out such that the job you do today as a second class, that you're moving to, that you're evolving to when you're a first class, a chief, senior chief, master chief. When I go to small ratings, which have like 200 or 300 people in it, imagine you're in my position with a rating like that. How do I build a career path for that? What's the difference between what a second class does in that career path than a master chief roboticsman? Fundamentally, when there's only like 200 people in it. So it's not like there's a big leadership opportunity because they're going to be dispersed. So then what I'm really looking for is the technical aspects of that person. And when that comes down to it, that's like some programming. So I've got this Master Chief like, sitting there like doing some Python maybe, and I've got you doing some Python, and the gadget goes out and does the thing, comes back, and so it's just not a solid structure by which how we like to do business in the Navy. Does that make sense? In fact, all small ratings can be plagued with this. It's not good career, it's not good opportunity for you to advance when it's too small. Some of you may be in one of those already that's so small that someone has to die before you make first class, right? So that's got challenges. So that's one point, it's career path. And so a little bit of this is kind of education on how to think about such things when you get me here. The other thing is that I have to worry about is fungibility, okay? Does that term make sense? The more fungible I make a human, and this is true with any business, the more valuable they are. So when I stovepipe skill sets, and I lose fungibility. So I should be able to look at you as a technical rating with a T in the end of your rate, right? And know what that brings to bear is a whole suite of things you can do for me. You can not only go work on a Cisco router, or go do a patch upgrade, or put some new antivirus software in, or go monitor a network, but you ought to be able to, I think it shouldn't be beyond belief that you could actually go program a robotic vehicle. That shouldn't be a stretch, should it? I mean, isn't that essentially what you do? I mean, that's not right. So this idea to incorporate robotic training and AI and ML too, both, in our normal technical pipeline schools for everyone is where I want to go. So to the MCPON's point, everyone's a roboticsman, just like everyone's an iPhone man. I mean, no one had to go to any training to pick up a phone and learn how to operate an app on it. You did it pretty much by trial and error, didn't you? And you did it by the fact that it has common feel and function. You launch it, you know that it has certain characteristics that make it like other apps. So see, my job is to go make all that similar across all of our interfaces, so that when you get to a new thing that you're not familiar with, the interface is similar. So within an hour, 2 hours, maybe a week, you're completely up to speed with that interface. You know how to go deal with it. So I think I think making more rates goes the wrong way. I like going the other way to make you highly fungible. And so that I know I can go tell you, hey, I got a UUV, it's sitting on the rack, it needs to go out for 5 miles, drive down, 10 feet, swim around, scan the bottom, come back and recover at this location. That ought to be something in your head. You're interfacing with some software that shouldn't be beyond your ability to go make that thing go do that. That shouldn't require a rate to do that. That should just be right in your wheelhouse. Does that make sense? So while robotics warfare rating sounds kind of cool, I mean, it can sound cool. From a CNO's perspective, it's not a very fungible type of rate. It's small, so then it doesn't lend itself to a good career path. So those are the challenges with that. So I'm just being very honest with you. So I'd rather all of you be roboticsmen. I should be able to look at all of you and go like, hey, I know how to go somewhere. I can go to Amazon, order a quadcopter. I can read a book, watch a couple YouTubes, and pretty much that thing's there, I'm flying the thing around. It shouldn't be that complicated. If it's so complicated that I've got to have really high-end expertise training, then really I have failed in working with the vendor who provides it to make that user-machine interface too complicated. So I want to fix that. So but it's a great question. It's timely. I'm working on this right now, actually. I mean, it's like somebody told you that or something. I don't know. I mean, literally, we're literally working this very problem. So your timing was perfect. What else? Sir.
Good afternoon, sir. MCPON, Lieutenant Stawicki from USFK headquarters. The SecWar has stated that he'd like to reorganize how officer promotion is happening and even promotion overall. Can you discuss on how that would look for the Navy, sir?
You may be ahead of me on that. I don't know. Can you give me another what he said it should look like?
Yes, sir. Well, so he's discussed in several speeches that he wants it to be more focused on merit-based promotion.
Okay, yeah.
And I'm wondering if that's going to change how our boards appear.
Yeah.
If there's a
I got you.
approach.
Well, I mean, it shouldn't be lost. You can sit down. It shouldn't be lost on anyone that Secretary Hexbeth is 100% a meritocracy-based leader, right? Our Sec War, I mean, he came in that way. He's made it very clear that's what he believes in. He structures everything around that. But the good news is, how many people have set up a selection board? Anybody? All the front row people probably. So if you ever get a chance to be a recorder, an admin assistant, or set a board, go do it. In that board, our boards have always been that. Our boards there is no departure from that. You can speak to how this affects enlisted promotion. But in officers, the board members read basically what we value for that board, because, I mean, we do have to force manage. And so you're all doing different things. The officers here are doing different things from different, even within your community, there could be skills that we need. You may be very heavy financially, and we are really short on financial. So that board may have a desire to pick up some additional people who have financial skills. Does that make sense? Or language skills, or experiences in different countries, or whatever the things are. So I need good SWOs, good submariners, good aviators, but in addition, I need some people with these types of, kind of experiences and professional expertise. So, but at the end of the day, you got somebody reviewing your record, they're talking about your record, all they're talking about is your merit. The whole thing has always been that way. And so there's not a big departure from that I see. So there's no quotas or anything like that that's based on any type of, again, immutable characteristics. There never has been. It's just not a thing. Now, we've gone back and forth on pictures and, being shown. There's ideas that you can have biases based on, those things. And we can talk at length after this on how those turn out. But in general, minority groups are always favored when pictures are shown. It's just quite the opposite. It's not what you would expect. So that's why it goes back and forth. So those things do change, but I don't think that's not really what you're getting at. So I don't see a big change in it. I think the Secretary of the Navy is really thinking about how the fitness report system should capture meritocracy better. That's always been a bit of the holy grail for our evaluation systems. How do you get that? We tend to be a little bit, if you do your job well, and not be outcome specific, you just did your job well. But at the end of your job, I can't go earmark an outcome. Then we've never been outcome driven. Does that make sense? And I think there is a push to be a little more outcome driven, because that's the way businesses are. Again, I told you my daughters, in their evaluations, working hard and showing up every day, that's like you're getting in money. I mean, all they care about, their company cares about, is what have you produced? What's the outcomes? So, I don't know how to land that in the Navy, because we don't necessarily produce product. We produce, service, which is hard to measure. But I don't think there's going to be a big change there. You're going to see, in the physical fitness as an example, you're going to see us go back to hopefully that's already been understood here. We're going back to 2 PRTs a year. And if you're not in a combat role, which those have been identified, a select shot group of folks who are in our combat, think SWIC, EOD, SEAL, some of those ratings. What the PRT will look like is the PRT you've been accustomed to, already. I just did mine, just did it. Ran, did my push-ups and core, plank. You're just going to do it twice a year. We're going back to 2 times a year. We are overweight. We are. We came out of COVID, we're not in standards to the acceptable level. You guys walk around, you see this, and we need to tighten it up. We're in the military, we're in a combat profession. We need to be in good physical condition. It's important. And, I've always been very critical of the Navy that we've never baked in the time to prioritize that. We never have. The Navy, we talk a big game. We go, hey, why don't y'all get in shape, get in shape. You're like, well, Admiral, when do I do that? You go do that on your own time. That's when you do that. I want you in perfect physical condition. I want you to do that on your own time. But the Army and most of our infantry forces, Marines, they bake that into their plan of the day. They pay themselves first. I don't know if we'll ever get there just due to the nature of our job, but I think we can be more creative on how we do that and to do, take care of ourselves a little bit better. But on the meritocracy thing, I don't think you're going to see any changes to our precepts or our structure. Best and fully qualified.
Yeah, so on the enlisted side, it's the exact same. About 10 years ago, the enlisted selection board process shifted over to the officer process. So we follow the exact same thing, it's best and fully qualified. There are no quotas inside of that. And, the one difference we have, much to the consternation of maybe some of the people in this room this year, was we did change the chief eval to get, to try to get after what the boss was talking about and being more specific in evals on what the outcome of that sailor was in that particular area. Now, like all things we do in the Navy that involve IT, we kind of suck at it. So there were some growing pains with NavFit 98 version, whatever. But I think we've come through that. And I think that chief eval will, get after some of, trying to help us be more outcome based. And then when you couple that with all the work that's went into the CTC, where I now know for every rating, every qualification, task, or thing you could be expected to do throughout your career, I basically mapped out a no-shit enlisted career path that when we can finally digest all of that in a very easy way, we'll become kind of, we've toyed with this last one, we didn't do it, with, getting away from kind of EPMP and going to more like, actually qualified, fully qualified, or best qualified, right? Where, qualified would mean you've met the minimum, what is fully and best qualified, but we're just not there yet because we don't have these things in an easily, if I were to roll a career-long learning continuum out for you for a typical enlisted rate that's been printed out, it's about 30 feet long, so on paper. So we got to get that easily digestible, and then we'll get into, a little bit more, kind of tangible, like this is what you really have to do to get advanced. But there will always be, as the more senior people in this room know, there's always going to be some subjectivity in that, which is why for the more junior people who are like, hey, what do I got to do to get advanced? The chief can't really tell you. I mean, they can give you general guidance, but we try to avoid this checklist. Because you'll go do the checklist, you won't get advanced, and then you'll be like, you told me that's what I had to do to get advanced. But we are getting closer to that on the enlisted side with, again, the change in the chief eval and some of the ECP work we're doing. Mm-hmm. So.
Just outwork the person beside you.
Yeah. Always be the best at your job, it'll work out. We got like one more. Quick question.
Right over here, maybe?
Thank you. Chief Weatherall, CNFK. So our country is facing an affordability crisis, as most people will know. With our fleet concentration areas especially, I know we've tried to address that by increasing VAH, COLAs and stuff like that. Do you see there being a way forward to maybe build more housing for military housing and stuff like that to kind of address those concerns?
Yes, I do. I'd say the number one MCPON project that the entire Department of War is behind is housing. One of the recent policy memos that have just been stood up as a task force to go after that very thing from SecWar. And that's gone down to us, of course, as these things happen, and we've got our own task force. It's been led predominantly through the Department of the Navy, but really CNIC is the instrument by which that's being done. So I think you're going to see record money flow into barracks and housing. So, but like anything, that never gets the needle over quick enough, right? I mean, we have a problem today. So, it's like everything you'll find, the longer you stay in the Navy, you'll find everything's going to get fixed in the next 5 years. Everything's perfect then. And that 5 years is always just out of reach. Just never get there. So, what can I do today? That's really the issue for me. So one of the things I've been trying to do is really pump some energy into self-help. And I just really believe that we don't put enough emphasis on adopting the space we have through some type of, adopt a highway program that I instituted it there on the East Coast a bit when I was U.S. Fleet Forces. I want to make it go Navy-wide with really good self-help stores. And, so if, you live in a room and you got a hole in the wall. I mean, you should be able to repair that. I mean, really, do you need you can't go get some spackle and the right color paint and just patch that yourself? You got some kind of, the aesthetics outside the building look terrible. You can't have a day where everybody that lives there gets together and just puts a coat of paint on that. You can't walk around and kind of fix the memorials around the base, right? These tributes, these weapons maybe that are there that signify our history and our legacy. We can't just go, work to kind of sweep and pick up trash, with some kind of daily things. Now, this is alive and well at a lot of bases. Works really well when people take it on. I think Mayport's got a great program for it. And you guys may do it here too. But to me, that bridges till I can get things, financially squared away. What I struggle with is HVAC. You can't fix that yourself. That's not a self-help thing. And you're hot and miserable. You can't, if you're sitting with a bucket where you're collecting water because your roof's leaking, you can't fix that. So those things I have to get after at pace while I get the additional capacity built. So it's fair to put all that in. So don't be satisfied if you're in housing if it's not to the standard. The aesthetic standard, where it meets the test, would my parents be proud of me to live here? If they walked here, would they think my son or daughter works in some kind of third world nation? Or they work for the United States Navy? Make it the latter. And don't be satisfied with that, but put some elbow grease in and get the team together. My full commitment on that. I don't think we use our CBs enough for this. It's like the CBs, I can't do that. That's not a real, I can do anything with them. Who said that? Nobody said that. I didn't say that. So if they need to go fix a ramp or like a railing or something like that, you got some CBs that need to do a little more of a mechanical thing. Got an admiral down here on the front row and a base commander. Go get some CBs in here. It's got some skills. Go utilize the people. And it's, again, this is a bridge till we get, anything that I've got MCPON structure done. But you don't have to live with it looking like ass, right? Hangars, they drive me nuts. I drive by these hangars, and it drives all the representatives of our Congress nuts too. It's okay to go paint them. It's okay, right? It's okay to actually go get an electrician who knows something about motors to get the automatic door opening motor to open the door for you without opening it with a tractor. It's okay to go use that, even though they don't normally do that kind of work. So the sky's the limit. I mean, we're the Navy, right? We got skills to do all this. You wouldn't think twice about doing this on a ship. But I put you ashore and it's like, oh, can't Dan do that? Where's the building manager? Yeah, I'm looking at the building manager. You're the building manager. I know, and you think, well, I deserve to fill in the blank. I don't disagree with that. But, part of this is just being a good, being a good patron here of the facilities and making sure you police it, kept it picked up, you behave in it, you're watching out for each other, and, if something needs a little coat of paint, put some paint on it. It's okay. So, but I'm trying to get more housing overall to your question.
But I think what complicates family housing specifically is, the family housing we have now in a bunch of our fleet concentration areas, we fail to meet our contractual obligation with the partners, so they allow other people to stay there, right? And so when we don't use the capacity we have, it's hard to go to the Department of War and say, build me more housing. Now, there's a bunch of reasons for that, I think, right? Our housing areas and our fleet concentration areas are generally not where people want to live, okay? So, that's, I can't go back to 1910 and change where we put the base, you know what I mean? The base is where it's at. And so, so it is a little bit complicated, when I do build housing in areas and then nobody lives there. because everybody wants, everybody wants a 4-bedroom house on half an acre and the exactly right school district that they want. And so it's you know what I mean? It's a little more complicated than, because that's what the department thinks about when they go to make these. And so PPV is the right answer, probably writ large, just because then if we don't fill it because you don't want to live there, then the partner can fill it. But we have not done a good job of holding them to their contracts, which the department is acutely aware of and the Department of War is going after. So there is a lot of work being done in that. So.
Well, listen, folks, so we got to head out, but thank you for what you do. Know where you fit in, okay? Know where you fit into the machine. Add value greater than just that place where you fit in, okay? There's an old saying, kind of 2 up and 1 down. So when you're think about your job, think about not only what you're doing for your direct report, your boss, but what does your boss, who does that person report to? How am I enabling my boss to be effective to their boss? And then that usually comes at the expense of somebody working for you. That's the 1 down. So you can't go burn that layer out to make the 2 bosses happy either. So this 2 up, 1 down is a kind of a good structure. I have to use it myself. It's just my 2 up ends up being the president. And so, but it's the same thing. It's the same thing, trust me. It doesn't change as you scale. But know where you fit into the machine, and the machine of what we do as a Navy. The greatest Navy in the world. And because it will be the mission, not the amenities. I can't shovel enough amenities at you. I'll never satisfy that. I underpay you, right? You don't have the greatest, benefits in the world. None of that's why you're sitting here. And what keeps you here is your wanting to wear the cloth of the nation, wanting to serve your country, and the mission that you do here. And you do that best by knowing how you fit into that. And just be relentless on that and advancing how you fit into that mission. And this place will just crush it. We'll kick ass and take names. And it's a great opportunity to be forward deployed in another country. You will never forget being here. And for the ones that's first time being overseas, it will be the thing you will remember most in your career, trust me, as a guy that's been around for 40 years. So enjoy it. Learn the culture of this country, inculcate yourself, the food, the people, how grateful Korea is to have us here. For the time that we spent fighting when we were here during that war, they're forever grateful for that. And don't abuse it, okay? Be good stewards and ambassadors of this country. So thanks again for letting us spend a few minutes with you. Thanks.
What's on deck?